Transmission 13. Sovereign Diplomacy. Welcome back, sovereigns. We have spoken of the perimeter. We have defined the sanctuary. We have discussed the mechanics of biological, digital, and physical autonomy. But a fortress, no matter how impregnable, does not exist in a vacuum. It exists within a landscape populated by ghosts, by predators, and by the vast, unthinking machinery of a dying civilization. Today, we address the most delicate layer of the sovereign offensive, the art of diplomacy, not the diplomacy of nation-states, corrupt embassies, and empty treaties, but the sovereign diplomacy of the high-functioning outlier. This is the protocol for those who have realized that the system is no longer a protector, but a parasite. The fundamental paradox of the sovereign alpha is this: to be truly free, you must exist within a system that demands total subservience, yet you must remain untouched by its gears. You are a ghost in the machine, a shadow in a world of blinding, artificial light. Many who embark on the path of sovereignty make a fatal, ego-driven error. They grow loud. They become defiant in a way that is visible, loud, and provocative. They wear their autonomy like a badge of pride on their chest, effectively inviting the scrutiny of the very institutions they seek to escape. They shout from the rooftops about their independence, not realizing that the loudest voice is the easiest one for the Leviathan to silence. This is not strength, it is tactical suicide. It is the vanity of the fool who wants to be seen more than he wants to be free. True sovereignty is silent. It is the art of strategic interaction. In Transmission 13, we deconstruct the absolute necessity of social camouflage. We move beyond the binary of compliance versus rebellion, a trap set by the system to categorize its enemies, and enter the sophisticated, higher-dimensional realm of operational invisibility. The world is entering a phase of terminal dissolution. As the centralized structures liquefy under the weight of their own corruption and inefficiency, their desperation for control will reach a fever pitch. They will look for the outliers. They will look for the hoarders of resources, the masters of self-reliance, the producers, and the dissenters of the narrative. If they see you, they will attempt to harvest you. If they recognize your strength, they will try to convert it into their fuel. The first law of sovereign diplomacy: radical low-profile operations. Understand this cold, hard truth. The system cannot tax what it cannot see, cannot regulate what it does not recognize as a distinct entity. It cannot subvert a will that it believes is already broken and integrated into the mass. To the world, you must appear as a non-entity. You must master the aesthetic of the ordinary. In the age of total surveillance, where every heartbeat is digitized and every transaction is tracked, being normal is the ultimate disguise. We are not talking about being mediocre in your private life. We are talking about the tactical deployment of mediocrity as a ballistic shield. You must become the gray man, the individual who blends so perfectly into the background of a decaying society that the eye of the predator simply slides past you without a second thought. Your diplomacy is the critical interface between your internal fortress and the external chaos. Every interaction you have with a suspicious neighbor, a prying tax official, a predatory digital platform, or a massive corporate entity is a diplomatic mission. It is a calculated exchange of information where the primary goal is to provide the absolute minimum necessary data to maintain the maximum possible freedom. You are an embassy of one, operating in hostile territory. You do not explain yourself. You do not justify your choices to the uninitiated. You provide the expected response, the polite smile, the mundane excuse, and then you retreat back into the sanctuary of your silence. In this opening phase of our discussion, we must address the psychology of the shadow. Most men are driven by a desperate biological need to be seen, to be validated, and to be acknowledged by the herd. They post the intimate details of their lives on the digital ledger. They announce their small victories to strangers. They signal their virtues to avoid the wrath of the mob. The sovereign alpha has transcended this primitive urge for external recognition. Your validation comes from the stability of your perimeter, the health of your lineage, and the sharpness of your mind. It does not come from the likes of a digital hive mind or the hollow approval of a decaying society that hates the very excellence you represent. We are establishing a parallel civilization. To do so, we must navigate the ruins of the old one with the precision of a surgeon. We do not seek conflict for the sake of conflict. We seek the bypass. Conflict is expensive. Conflict leaves a thermal signature. Conflict invites the attention of the Leviathan. Diplomacy, however, the quiet, calculated diplomacy of the sovereign, allows you to move through the checkpoints of the matrix without triggering a single alarm. You are the traveler who carries no contraband in his luggage because his true power is stored in his mind and his decentralized networks. As we descend into the depths of this transmission, ask yourself with brutal honesty, how much of your life is currently visible to the eye of the machine? How many of your assets are tethered to the centralized grid, ready to be frozen at the press of a button? How many of your social interactions are creating a trail of breadcrumbs for the system to follow? The hunter's territory is not just a place on a map, it is a frequency of existence. To remain on that frequency, you must master the silence. You must learn to speak the language of the masses, the trivialities, the complaints, the mundane distractions. While thinking the thoughts of the gods, you must participate in the rituals of the system just enough to avoid suspicion, while your true energy, your true capital, and your true loyalty are funneled into the construction of your autonomous reality. This is the diplomacy of shadows. This is the calculated interaction of the sovereign who knows that the war is won before the first shot is ever fired. We are not hiding because we are afraid. We are afraid. We are hiding because we are lethal to the system's design. A virus does not announce its arrival to the immune system. It integrates, it adapts, it learns the host's weaknesses, and eventually replaces the host's logic with its own. You are the sovereign update to a failing human operating system. You are the bridge to what comes next. Prepare your mind, shed the ego that demands to be heard by those who do not matter. Embrace the terrifying power of being completely overlooked. The era of the loud, flag-waving revolutionary is dead. They are the first to be crushed. The era of the silent architect, building in the dark, has begun. This is the blueprint for your social survival. This is Transmission 13. To master the world of shadows, one must first understand the predatory nature of the light that seeks to expose it. The modern global system does not operate on the logic of service. It operates on the logic of total, unblinking transparency. It demands to know your precise location, your every financial transaction, your associations, your medical history, and through predictive algorithms, it even attempts to map your future thoughts. In such an environment, the most radical, effective act of rebellion is not a protest or a manifesto. It is to remain opaque. This is where the mechanics of sovereign diplomacy move from abstract theory into cold, tactical, and ruthless execution. We must now discuss the internal and external protocols of what we call the Ghost Protocol. I.e., the doctrine of minimal signature. Every human being, by the mere act of existing in the 21st century, leaves a signature on the world. This signature is composed of digital breadcrumbs, financial trails, thermal heat maps, and social impressions. The average man leaves a massive, messy, and loud signature that even a mid-level bureaucratic algorithm can track, analyze, and predict with terrifying accuracy. He is a target painted in neon light. The sovereign alpha, however, operates on the doctrine of minimal signature. In your financial diplomacy, this means a systematic and quiet decoupling of your survival from the primary surveillance nodes of the fiat system, while the masses are being ushered, like cattle, into the digital corral of central bank digital currencies, CBTs, and programmable money. The sovereign is already diversifying into the gray layer. You utilize cash where possible to maintain anonymity in local trade. You stack physical precious metals, gold and silver, not as an investment, but as a non-digital, non-trackable store of pure energy. You utilize decentralized, privacy-focused digital protocols for movement of capital across borders. You do not do this with a shout or a social media post. You do it as a quiet, disciplined migration. To the bank, you appear as a boring, low-velocity, and ultimately uninteresting account holder. To the world, your true wealth and your true leverage are invisible. This is financial camouflage in its highest form. To the gray man protocol, aesthetic deception in the physical realm, the diplomacy of the sovereign, is governed by the gray man concept. Most amateurs think of prepping as wearing tactical camouflage, driving a fortified military-style vehicle, and broadcasting their readiness through their appearance. This is a fatal mistake born of ego. True tactical depth is appearing so remarkably unremarkable that the eye of a predator, whether it be a common criminal or a state agent, simply slides past you without a second glance. Your social diplomacy requires you to be a master of the standard narrative. When you interact with neighbors, colleagues, or extended family, you do not lecture them on the inevitable collapse of the global financial system or the strategic necessity of seed saving and water purification. You don't become the crazy survivalist in their story. Instead, you talk about the weather, local sports, mundane household repairs, or the rising cost of groceries in a way that sounds like a complaint rather than a strategy. You feed the social algorithm exactly what it expects to see: a compliant, slightly distracted, average citizen who is just getting by like everyone else. Why is this necessary? Because information is the ultimate currency of control. If people in your immediate circle know you have a year's supply of food, an independent off-grid power system, and a significant tactical inventory, you have unknowingly made them your stakeholders. When the crisis hits and the supermarkets go dark, your diplomacy will fail because you have already surrendered your primary advantage, the element of surprise. You will become a target for their desperation. The hunter does not show his teeth or his cash until the moment of the strike or the moment of absolute necessity. Until then, he is just another shadow in the mundane suburban woods. Third, data poisoning and the digital fortress. Your digital diplomacy is perhaps the most difficult and technical layer to master in 2026. The matrix is no longer just a database. It is a predictive engine. It analyzes your search history, your biometric data from health apps, and your location pings to build a psychographic profile of who you are and what you might do. To counter this, the sovereign utilizes data poisoning. You do not simply hide, you provide the machine with useless, contradictory, and noisy data. You maintain a public digital persona that is bland, predictable, and perfectly aligned with the mainstream narrative. You might occasionally search for mundane topics or interact with safe content. Meanwhile, your true communications, your strategic research, and your logistical planning happen within the encrypted, decentralized depths of the parallel network we are building. You treat every smartphone as a compromised listening device, which it is. Your diplomatic protocol in the digital space is zero trust. You assume every public platform is a harvesting tool. Silence is not just the absence of noise. It is a tactical choice to deny the machine its fuel. 4. Strategic association. And the power of no sovereign alpha is defined not by what he accepts, but by what he refuses. The system thrives on your yes. Yes to high-interest debt. Yes to useless and soul-crushing consumption. Yes to psychological warfare disguised as breaking news. And yes to social obligations that drain your vital resources. Your diplomacy involves the ruthless, surgical application of the word no, but delivered with such grace and mundane reasoning that it creates zero friction. You decline the promotion that would tie you to a high surveillance corporate city for the next decade. You decline the social circle that demands high status, signaling through depreciating assets like luxury cars. You decline the protection of the state that comes at the cost of your biometric sovereignty. But you do not decline as a martyr or a rebel. You decline as a man who is simply too busy with family or focused on a small personal project. This is the diplomacy of redirection. You are protecting your most valuable and non-renewable resource, time, by refusing to trade it for the system's hollow baubles. IV, the parallel intelligence network. While you remain invisible to the system, you must be hypervisible to your vetted peers. Sovereign diplomacy includes the building of a parallel intelligence network. This is the 1% of the population who understands the frequency we are broadcasting. This is not a social club or a forum for complaints. It is a mutual defense, logistics, and information pact. You vet these individuals with extreme prejudice and patience. You do not find them in public comment sections. You find them through shared values, through demonstrated competence in the real world, and through the slow testing of character. When the centralized systems of the old world eventually fail, your diplomacy with this trusted circle will be the difference between chaotic isolation and organized survival. We are not just surviving a collapse. We are winning a quiet, sophisticated war for the future of the human spirit. The system wants you to be a lonely, desperate node in its grid. Sovereign diplomacy turns you into an independent architect of your own network, learning to move through the burning ruins of the old world without ever catching fire. We have navigated the abstract philosophy of invisibility and the cold surgical mechanics of social camouflage. Now, we reach the final, most critical stage of sovereign diplomacy, the transition from the shadow to the sovereign. Many who enter this path make the mistake of believing that diplomacy is a permanent state of being, a lifelong mask that one can never remove, a sentence of eternal hiding. They are wrong. Diplomacy is not a destination. It is a bridge. It is a tactical necessity. You wear the mask of the ordinary, the cloak of the mundane, and the shield of the gray man only until you have successfully built a private reality so powerful, so self-sufficient, and so resilient that the old, decaying system no longer has the jurisdiction, the leverage, or the physical capacity to touch you. The world as you know it is not merely suffering from a temporary economic crisis or a passing political storm. It is undergoing a fundamental, terminal restructuring of power. In this era of terminal dissolution, the centralized centers of the world, the megacities, the global banks, the bloated bureaucracies, are like dying stars. They are growing massive, volatile, and increasingly predatory just before they collapse into historical non-existence. Your primary mission during this volatile transition is not to save the old world, nor is it to argue with its doomed administrators. Your goal is to quietly outlive it. Your diplomacy is the art of managing the decline of the host while you prepare for your own emergence. The sovereignty of the final exit, the ultimate act of sovereign diplomacy, is what we define as the final exit. This is the singular moment when your parallel systems of energy production, food security, capital preservation, and physical defense are so robust and interconnected that you can effectively unplug from the matrix without suffering a decrease in it, your quality of life or your security. At this precise point, the nature of your diplomacy changes fundamentally. You are no longer a subject hiding in the shadows from a master. You are an independent, sovereign entity, engaging with the remnants of the old system only on your own terms, through your own strength, and at your own timing. This is the alpha endgame. You have successfully used the very tools provided by the system to systematically destroy the system's hold over your life. You used their dying fiat currency to acquire tangible, productive land. You used their digital infrastructure to learn decentralized skills and build encrypted networks. You used their remaining social freedoms to identify and bond with your trusted tribe. You have performed a masterful tactical extraction of your own existence from the gears of a machine designed to grind you into compliance. This is not just survival. This is a strategic victory of the highest order. 2. The responsibility of the architect in chaos as the centralized system continues its downward spiral. The sovereign diplomacy you have mastered will become even more vital, yet more dangerous, when the institutions of the matrix, the commercial banks, the centralized power grids, the social safety nets, begin to flicker, fail, and eventually go dark. The masses will enter a state of total, uncontrolled panic. This is the most perilous time for the sovereign alpha. The unwashed, unprepared masses will look for anyone who is prepared or prosperous to use as a sacrificial lamb or a source of desperate plunder. Your diplomacy in this final phase must be one of absolute fortification and containment. You do not become a public savior. You do not announce your abundance to the hungry crowd. You do not attempt to wake up those who refuse to listen when the sun was still shining. You continue the mask of the shadow, the posture of the gray man, until the initial wave of chaos has settled into a new local order. Your diplomacy with the dying world becomes a policy of strict containment. You protect your territory, your resources, your family, and your lineage with a calculated silence that is backed by a very real, very lethal competence. You are the architect of a new world, and an architect must first ensure the foundation is secure before the structure is revealed. The third, the legacy of Sapiens rise. Remember the profound purpose of our 100 video journey. We are not merely building a YouTube channel for entertainment or casual information. We are broadcasting the encrypted blueprints for a parallel civilization. Each transmission, like this one on diplomacy, is another vital layer of armor you are putting on. Each lesson is a brick in the wall of your own personal fortress. By the time we reach the milestone of transmission 100, the Sapiens Rises community will not be a collection of followers, but a global network of invisible sovereign fortresses, connected by high-level encryption and a shared frequency of absolute truth. The final directive of transmission 13 to the man listening to this in a room surrounded by the hollow noise of a city he no longer trusts. Master your silence now. Do not seek the validation or approval of those who are already spiritually and intellectually dead. Your diplomacy is not with the mob. Your diplomacy is with the future. Every time you refuse to argue with a fool, you save vital energy for your fortress. Every time you hide your true progress from the envious prying eyes of the crowd, you buy a measure of security for your children. Every time you poison the data the machine tries to harvest from your life, you reclaim a sacred piece of your soul. The true architect does not build his monuments in the town square while the crowd watches and jeers. He builds them in the deep, silent woods, in the encrypted nodes of the decentralized web, and in the quiet, unbreakable strength of his own bloodline. When the artificial light of the old world finally fails for good, your monument will be the only thing left standing, shining with the steady internal light of a true, independent sun. You are the hunter. You are the architect. You are the sovereign. This concludes transmission 13. The perimeter is set. The camouflage is operational. The diplomacy is strategic. We are moving with purpose closer to the heart of the hunter's territory. Prepare your mind for transmission 14. The offensive continues. Silence is your strength.